pointing to incidents.
There are dozens of towns. Incidents. You can't just say it's an incident with 1,400
women,
1,400 girls were systematically raped for decades.
Wait a second. If you don't have the full data, Drew, how can you say there's a particular problem with Pakistani immigrant communities and grooming gangs?
Because 1,400 young girls were raped in the town of Rotherham by hundreds of men, and
wait,
no one
I asked
stopped
you a specific
it.
question,
That's
Drew.
why.
I said, Drew, you just said we don't have the full data to know which race is more represented. If that's the case, how can you say it's a particular Pakistani problem?
Never have I ever said this is specifically Pakistani. I've never said that once. I said it's a broader problem with young men from countries where women have very few political and social rights.
How would you know that if we don't have the global data? You say we don't have the data to know.
Because they're constantly, these things are constantly happening. Because, for example, there was the Cologne mass sexual assaults. Because there was Rotherham, there was Telford, there was.
You're pointing to incidents.
There are dozens of towns. Incidents. You can't just say it's an incident with 1,400 women, 1,400 girls systematically raped for decades.
Drew, this is bad. Drew, I'm not saying incident. So as to say, I'm not saying incident as to make and what you're doing to me now. What I think you're trying to do to me now is similar to what you're doing to Mehdi Hassan. When I say incident, I don't mean therefore it's less or better bad. What I'm saying it's a set of cases, but it's not the global sample or the global representative case of all the grooming gangs.
Let's have a full national inquiry then. Okay, here we go then, Pisco. Let's have a full national inquiry so that we can get the proper stats. Let's do that.
Wait,
if I'm wrong, I'll accept
that. What's being asked for is not a national inquiry into the overall.
Just have an inquiry. Just have an investigation.
I need to chime in here.
I
need to chime in here. An inquiry is not going to tell you the proportion of grooming gangs in the country because police.
Let's do proper studies then.
The problem with these studies is that they ask police stations and they get access to all of them, and the police don't have any data on it because. Here's a question: what's a grooming gang?
Well, exactly. Even the term grooming gang is wrong. It should be child rape gang because these are groups of men who are coordinating for the purpose of systematically raping children.
Wait.
So here's one solution.
Wait. So what you just said
Why
there?
not pass a law?
What you just said there.
To outlaw rape?
They coordinate. You said they coordinate to target children, specifically because they're children, right? So you realize there's one study that actually suggests that there's a study. I can show you a study from 2013 that would say someone who targets there's like two different kinds of group child abusers. One is the groups that target them on the basis of vulnerability, like opportunists, not because they have a specific attraction, but because they have access. And then the other one is people who target them specifically because they are attracted to underage people. You know that like in that latter category, 100% of people from this small study were white. Okay. So it's like.
Oh, okay, but what's the purpose of bringing that up to say, oh, well, the gangs of men who were raping children weren't predominantly attracted to children. They were just doing it because that was the opportunity. Like, what's the point of bringing up that?
The point of bringing it up is that if we don't have data and we don't have enough police records and access to this data, because when these crimes were committed and even before, none of these institutions seemed to have any coherent or cohesive understanding of what these crimes actually are and how you define them. So an inquiry won't find you anything on that. We've had studies on this, and they all say they all say the data is limited. We don't know, like we don't have. Representative sampling, but the problem is you're saying that it's a predominantly, so majority or disproportionately Asian Pakistani problem for these gangs. But then I'm wondering like how you know that if we don't know that because of data.
Okay, if we don't do that, let's do two things. Let's have a national inquiry because this did happen in dozens of towns. And it was in dozens of towns. It was predominantly Pakistani men.
How do you know that?
I mean,
we're not going to let you get away with this. Is it your position? Is it your position or not that in the United Kingdom? Is it your position in the United Kingdom or not that it's predominantly Pakistani, or do we need the data? Which is your position?
Okay, I've never said this is only a Pakistani problem. Never once.
I'm not asking that. I'm asking.
Okay. I believe they are overrepresented. Do two things. One, let's compel police services across the country. Let's have a nationwide strategy. Implement all the recommendations in the Rochdale report. Let's have a nationwide strategy to define this crime.
Drew.
Pisco, I'm explaining. I'm telling you, this is actually an answer to your question. Let's have a two-pronged approach. One, implement all the recommendations in the Rochdale report. Let's have a nationwide focused approach with all institutions coming together so that we can, one, define this problem correctly, two, we can collect the data on it. And then secondly, let's also have a nationwide inquiry. If we don't have the full data, let's do those two things. What would stop us from doing those two things?
I'm asking you, what is your position?
At the moment, we can't do those two things.
Is it your position that in the UK, Pakistani citizens or immigrants are overrepresented, or do we not have enough data with respect to grooming gangs?
Overrepresented.
Based on what?
The data is not complete, but based on the data we do have, they are overrepresented. And
the data we do have is how do we know that we're not missing something big if what you're saying is it's so limited? Why would you draw a conclusion like that with a high degree of confidence?
Why would I draw
a
conclusion with a high degree of confidence? Because I'm listening to Nazir Assad, the guy who was the Pakistani British prosecutor of these things, who said this is also a specifically cultural problem in our communities. He said that himself. Why are you disagreeing with the British Pakistani guy who's literally a Pakistani Muslim? And he said this is a cultural problem with our communities. Why are you disagreeing with him? He's the guy who prosecuted people.
It could be a cultural problem, and notwithstanding that fact, it's not a case of overrepresentation. Those are not incompatible.
Okay. If it's not overrepresentation, let's do a fact-finding mission.
It's your position that it is. It's your position that it is. I just want to know what the state of the data is.
Look, we need more data. So let's have nationwide approach to collect more data on this stuff.
I'm not in principle opposed to more fact finding, but let's do
that. They need to do more data collection on grooming gangs. That's just a fact. Everyone has to agree with that.
But I'm not blind, and I'm not going to be a sucker. And I'm going to actually look about the motives of people trying to push an agenda.
Okay. Here's an example, Pisco. Here's an example. I believe this was LonerBox. You probably know this better than me. Off the top of my head, I could get this wrong, but I believe it was Rotherham. Do you know if it was Rotherham, LonerBox, where it was? It could be Rochdale, but basically one of the ringleaders. I think it was Rochdale, but still, massive pattern of abuse of young girls over a long period of time, and. I'm going to double check. Rochdale. He said there were multiple outbursts in court where one of the ringleaders of this gang that raped children made racial outbursts in court. And some of these quotes were very incendiary. Stuff like, "We are the supreme race." Stuff like, white people teach their girls to be great at sex. This is what he said in court. And he also said, we are being persecuted solely because we're Muslim.
Yeah, white people say fucked up shit too. What's your point? White people say really fucked up shit too.
My point, okay, Pisco, here's the point. The guy, literally the ringleader of one of these really brutal rape gangs against young girls, made racially motivated comments in court that indicate that this was a racially motivated crime. So here's an example where we know. Here is a grooming gang that was predominantly made up of Pakistani men, and the ringleader made racially aggravated, incendiary comments.
There's a conflation.
What's the conflation? He said,
yes,
we're the superior
I'll tell you
race.
The conflation.
He said that. He said, we're the superior race.
So now
the white girls.
So I will tell you the conflation, right? One is, are the grooming gangs racially motivated? That's one potential problem. These are racially motivated grooming gangs, and they might be. The second is one race disproportionately, or one ethnicity disproportionately represented in the crime itself. Completely different. One is the racial attitudes of the aggressors, and the other is the racial makeup of the aggressors.
Okay. Here's a good solution to this question, right? One, a nationwide inquiry. Two, collecting more data. Let's do that. Let's just do that. Why would anybody be opposed to that? Let's collect more data. Let's do it full investigation, because we know in at least one case. That the ringleaders were racially motivated, and even one case of mass grooming, mass rape of young children, and it was done for predominantly racially motivated reasons. Even one case would merit really serious questions about current things of assimilation, current problems regarding assimilation, integration, etc.
Because it's such a big issue, and because you're really concerned, isn't it true to say you're just as concerned with white grooming gangs as Pakistani grooming gangs? Sure.
Okay. Do a full study. I'm saying do a nationwide inquiry.
Would you be against any study that focused specifically on Rotherham to the exclusion of other grooming gang issues in the country?
I think the study should be nationwide. Actually telling you,
I asked
it should be nationwide.
Would you be against a study?
No, I'm not, because this nationwide inquiry should also look at white grooming gangs. I've never said it shouldn't. I'm never saying just focus on.
No, but I'm asking you if there was a proposal and the only proposal was, hey, let's just focus on Pakistani grooming gangs and only the Pakistani.
I've never said that. Okay,
no, I'm not saying that you would.
I don't agree with that.
I'm literally going to put the question to you. Would you be in favor of that or against that?
No, I'm against that. It should look at the entire nation.
Okay, so it sounds like you agree with Mehdi Hassan that this should be a problem. Why not?
Because I believe that he's doing this in bad faith because he doesn't want people to bring it up.
Oh, but I believe Elon is doing this in bad faith so that he can extract more political leverage.
But here's the thing. As I said earlier, even if Elon wasn't tweeting about this, I don't care. I'm saying this because I care about it. Because I'm a person who read about these horrible crises.
Mehdi is commenting on Elon Musk and the bad faith actors like Tommy Robinson, like Liz Truss, like all these other fucking clowns in that country, and frankly in our country.
Shouldn't have okay, but should there not be a nationwide debate because some bad people are involved in it? I'm saying every single recommendation should be implemented in full. I completely agree with that. I've already said that in the stream. Should be implemented in full. Let's do that. Implement it in full. I agree that the Tories are at fault because they were in government for 14 years and this happened all under their watch. I actually view this as a Tory issue. This is the Tory government that did this problem. They presided over this crisis. They're responsible.
And mostly, you see all these people blaming Keir Starmer. You see all these people. Isn't this obviously a political fucking hit?
But Pisco. It's also okay. This is my position, right? It is predominantly the Tories' problem because they were the ones who were in government for 14 years. They presided over this hollowing out of the British state over the past 14 years. I've never defended what Tories want. I hated the Tories. I was actually really excited when the Keir Starmer government came in. I thought it was good. Britain needed to change because Britain was basically heading in the direction of a failed state. Here's one problem, right? Even though I'm very strongly critical of the Tories and I really didn't like the Tories and I wanted a change of government, Keir Starmer in the first 6 months has made missteps, big missteps.
I only want to hear them in the context of how it relates to this.
Okay, the first thing he should have said, instead of talking about attacks on the Labour government and how Elon shouldn't be attacking, he should have said the first priority should have been the victims. That should be the victims, right?
Here's another one. What you care about is talking. What you care about is
Pisco. I'm still going. I've got a second point to my point. I've got a second point here. Okay. The other thing is, the Labour government was in power for 6 months. I agree. That's not a large amount of time. So that's why I'm saying, and I'm actually agreeing with LonerBox, the Tories are the ones who should bear the most blame for this. However, the Labour government was in power for 6 months. And in that 6 months, they have not implemented any of the recommendations on the J report. And they did not have a plan to implement those recommendations until literally 3-4 days ago when this whole issue blew up on Twitter. And that is a problem. That is a problem in itself. Okay. Again, I'm agreeing with LonerBox that the main issue has been the Tories because they were the ones in government for so long. But the Labour Party was in power for the past 6 months. And there was no plan. For all we know, if this didn't blow up on Twitter, they wouldn't ever have been steps by the Labour government to implement all the recommendations.
Do you want another inquiry, or do you want to see the reforms of the J report implemented? What would be the use of another report? I guess I'm not sure. Are you saying that the time for inquiry is over or not?
Okay. Two separate things here. One, implement all the recommendations from the J report. Have a nationwide set of data. Labour government, they failed because they should have had that. That should have been one of their first items of government when they got into power. Unfortunately, they didn't have a plan for that until it blew up on Twitter. For all we know, they wouldn't have done it if it didn't blow up on Twitter. That's one point. That's point one. Point two. Now, let's have a nationwide inquiry and we can investigate whether these crimes were racially motivated. I think that is an important thing. That is an important factor because we know in the case of Rochdale with the main offender making these heinous racial comments in court, we do need to understand that. We do need to understand whether this was racially motivated or not, whether these are hate crimes, whether this is a wider problem. This is a wider problem because they were not completely isolated individuals. They're working together in gangs. We know that we know that people knew in the community about this stuff because there was a great sense of impunity. They were bragging to some people. So we need to understand as well the cultural problems that might have led to this. We have to understand how can we rebuild social cohesion? How can we work better to assimilate and integrate people who are already living in Britain to make sure that these terrible attitudes towards women are not acceptable? How do we fix that? That's an important issue. That's an important issue. We should look into that.
I'm just going to throw in a fact check, the moderator role here. Okay. You suggested that Labour only acted now because of the Twitter blow up. The one of the recommendations was mandatory. I didn't say that.
Let him finish, bro. What the fuck?
No, but can I just say? I didn't say they only did it because of the Twitter blow up. I'm just saying there was no coherent plan until very recently,
Right.
and that means that we don't know whether.
Okay, so the mandatory reporting recommendation, which is one of the recommendations from the latest inquiry, is basically that it's a crime if you don't report on suspected or witnessed child abuse if you work with kids. That's like they want to make it a crime.
Yes.
Labour won the election in the first week of July. That bill was introduced in the end of July last year.
That's good. That's good.
So their first 3 weeks in office, and they introduced that bill.
And again, LonerBox, if you look at any of my commentary on this, I've never said that the Labor Party is particularly the problem. I've never said that they wear the entire issue. I just think that, obviously,
it sounds like you're saying that everyone forgot about this, that no one had it on their plate.
It was okay, but it's true, Pisco. It's true that this was not an issue that was okay. Mehdi Hassan. Let's take Mehdi Hassan's words. Mehdi Hassan himself said this is the crime of the century. Okay, if it's the crime of the century, this should have been right at the top of the agenda, but it was arguably not on the top of the agenda until very recently.
So now we're changing from, if it weren't for Elon, this.
You're just nitpicking. You're just nitpicking here. There's no even.
No, that's what you're doing.
No, not even from Elon. I'm not even saying it's Elon who's done this. I'm not even saying that.
So if it weren't for who?
Never once have I said, all praise to Elon. I've never said that. I've never said that once. I'm just saying that prior to this issue blowing up on Twitter, obviously he had a big role in that. But even before Elon retweeted, the way I read about it was there was somebody who posted the sentencing remarks from Oxford, and that got 45 million views. And that was before Elon was even talking about it. I'm pretty sure that's how he learned about it as well, because this came up on Twitter and became so viral. Now there's a big nationwide discussion about it. Was there a nationwide discussion about it 2 months ago? Not really.
Can I ask you a question?
What have been some of the fruits of this nationwide discussion? Sorry.
What did you say?
Yeah, well, I was going to go there.
What if? Okay, Pisco, you can ask us.
No. I think that's a good question, but I was going to phrase it more like in the vein of Elon, which is and more affirmatively. I'm just not going to, instead of asking you, I'm just going to tell you, and then I'll ask you a question. The national debate has been fucking toxic, and it's not about implementing this shit. It's about shitting on certain groups of people and shitting on labor and trying to blame Keir Starmer. And so it doesn't sound like the national conversation, to the extent that it's online, has been bearing any fruit. And to the contrary, and this is where my question comes in, Elon Musk, who is now aware, there's no chance, right, that he's not aware that Tommy Robinson is a incredible fraud, right? And
let's put them to the side. I would.
I don't want to I actually don't want to put it to the side. So I'm asking you a question. Do you think it's conceivable?
Though, but I'm not associated.
Well, whether you are or not, I'm asking you the question. Do you think it's conceivable that Elon Musk has not been made aware that Tommy Robinson is a piece of shit, a fraud? You think it's aware that information he's not had access to? You think it's conceivable?
As I said, I strongly disagree.
I did not ask you that. I asked you, do you think it's conceivable? Do you think it's conceivable?
I strongly disagree. It's wrong. I'm telling you what he's saying is wrong. I'm telling you what he's saying.
Isn't it a bad faith fucking lie? Isn't it a lie?
Why do you want me? Dude, I literally said what he said is really wrong, and I strongly disagree with it. But you want me to come out and be like, kill Elon? I'm not going to say kill Elon, okay?
I'm not telling you to kill Elon.
I strongly disagree with it. What do you want me to say? I said I strongly disagree with it. It's wrong. I said it's really wrong.
Isn't it a fucking lie?
Why don't you come out and just say it's really wrong? I strongly disagree. But you want me to come out and say
I want you to say what it is.
I don't know what you want me to say.
No, because it's the same thing it's the same pattern. I'm sorry that I'm seeing in our kind of meta debate about Mehdi, which is I actually think that there's malice at foot with respect to Elon, and I want you to recognize that. I mean, this guy
I think Mehdi Hassan is motivated by malice. Absolutely motivated by malice.
You're willing to say it about Mehdi. So this is the difference, right? You're willing to say it about Mehdi. You are unwilling to say it about Elon. Fair?
Yes, I think Mehdi Hassan's worse than Elon, 100%.
No. I'm asking you: are you willing to say you are willing to say that Mehdi Hassan is malicious, but you are not willing to say it about Elon Musk? Is that correct on this issue?
I think on this one issue, Mehdi Hassan is the main person.
And I'm asking you a specific question. Are you willing
not Elon? So
Elon
is things that I disagree with.
So Elon, the biggest fucking liar in the world.
Pisco, I've said that I don't agree with what he said on everything. I said that I don't agree with all of it. I said he's made a lot of mistakes. I disagree with a lot of it.
You give the benefit of the doubt to a robber baron piece of shit, the richest man in the world, a corrupt oligarch who is corrupting my fucking country.
You're giving the benefit of the doubt. You're giving the benefit of the doubt to literally an Islamist supremacist, which is Mehdi Hassan. That's literally Mehdi Hassan.
Holy shit. So your position is
Mehdi Hasan
is an Islamist.
Yes.
Oh, okay, but even
Yeah,
putting aside that, right?
Every single step of the way. He's always he literally was an Islamist like 15 years ago. There are literally videos of him like literally saying that all gay people are evil, etc. And he's always, and then he apologized and he reformed himself. But all he ever does is defend and equivocate whenever any problems regarding Islamism anywhere.
What do you think that Elon has said about trans people? Like, do you have any comment on that?
I don't agree with it. I don't agree with
it.
Yeah,
but you're ascribing. So this is my problem. Even if you're saying that Mehdi Hasan, you're not going to have any good faith because he's an Islamist. And Islamist, by the way, has a particular phrase. And maybe he said some very bad things in the past. By the way, a lot of people have said some very bad things in the past.
He literally said that all gay people were fucking evil. And then he said, and then like a couple years later, he then like repudiated that and said, "I'm really sorry."
Do I need to go through all? Do I need to go through all the disgusting, heinous shit? Do I need to go through all the disgusting, heinous shit that Elon Musk has said over the course of his miserable fucking life?
Pisco, this is the problem. You're trying to make this whole debate about Elon and Mehdi. I don't even give a fuck really.
No.
This
conversation is about intention.
This conversation about motivation. I already said I made a mistake. I don't give a fuck about that. Let's talk about the grooming gangs. And you're just keep on trying to go, like, oh no, you're being a bit too mean against Mehdi Hasan.
This conversation.
That's a separate thing. That's literally such a separate thing. Let's talk about the fucking crisis of child rape.
Drew, this conversation is about.
Dude, you're more outraged by Elon's tweets than the child rape that happened. That's a fact.
How dare you say that? What are you talking about?
Where's your outrage? Literally, you're going out here going, "Oh, Elon, fucking kill him. He's so evil." And then where's your outrage? Where's your passion when it comes to the fucking Rutherham child rape game?
This is the issue, right? And I want to be able to say this, and I want to be able for you to hear it, right? When I asked like, what was it about Keir Starmer, the big mistakes related to this? You're like, oh, at the start of I didn't like what he said at the beginning of his press conference. It sounds like, dude, let me finish what the fuck I'm going to say.
I said he should implement all the recommendations. So he didn't have a plan to do that.
So what you actually want, right? What you want is for me to repeat back these big emotions, these big long throat clearers like you had at the start of this fucking conversation where it wouldn't fucking end. But these big throat clearers about how
all your passion is about how even
finish. What you care most about is actually the virtue signal. And what I'm telling you is that
virtue signaling about rape. Yeah, you should be outraged about fucking child rape, man. Yes, of course. No, you think it's virtue signaling to be upset about child rape?
We're not here debating about whether or not it's good or bad to rape or whether rape should outrage you. We're here debating about the motivations of the people involved in these discussions.
You're objectively not outraged. All your outrage is targeted at Elon and saying, oh, he's doing this for the bad reason. Where's your passion about the fact that there's 1,400 children who were fucking raped?
So the point of this discussion is about the motivations of the actors involved in the discussion, including yourself. And this whole thing is about your tweet and about the nature of the discourse.
No, it wasn't. I thought this was a discussion about the child grooming game. I didn't know that this was supposed to be a fucking 2 hour. I didn't know that this was supposed to be a 2 hour male struggle session about how Drew was mean to fucking Mehdi Hasan. Who fucking cares?
No, this conversation is about Mehdi's point and your response to it. And Mehdi's point has to do with the way in which this issue is arising and the bad faith of the rich and powerful people who are bringing this forward.
I don't give a fuck what Elon posts about it.
No, but it is what we're not debating.
I read the sentencing report. I don't give a fuck about what Elon said.
We were not debating. Drew, at no point were we debating on Twitter or X the fundamentals of the grooming gang crisis. Or by the way, and if we were really outraged, I don't really see your outrage at the conservatives. I see you trying to virtue signal at this point and make this. I really care about this, just like I really care about Ukraine, and you don't care about shit, and I really care about all this. So this, you're trying to distract now.
Why would I be outraged? Why would I be outraged? No, I'm not distracted. My primary concern is that children were raped. That's why I'm mad.
We're not having. It is fucking disgusting that people are raped. That in the United Kingdom, that white people and Pakistani people and people of other Asian descent are fucking raping kids. It is gross. Criminality should always be fucking charged. That we need to go and take strict measures to make sure these kids are protected. And there was a failure on all levels to protect those kids. But we weren't debating about that. The debate was never about that.
That's what I thought the debate was. That's what the debate was.
Okay, you thought it was conceivable. You thought it was conceivable that I was going to come on in here and say, wait a second, because this is also deceitful what you're doing right now. You thought it was conceivable that I was going to come on here and say, yeah, it's okay. I guess, don't do that. You thought that that's conceivable, that we're going to have, and you were going to be like, rape gang is bad, and I'm going to say rape gang is okay. Do you really think the debate was going to be about that?
No, I never thought that. No, I never thought that.
Then what are we even talking about? So right now, this is all performative. All of this is because you don't want to talk about Elon desperately. And that's what this is about. You don't want to talk about Elon. It makes you uncomfortable. And I got you on something, and you don't want to go back there. And I remember what we're doing, and I'm going to ask it to you again.
This is so fucking retarded. This is so retarded. I literally said, what Elon has posted is bad. I don't agree with him on Tommy Robinson. That's bad. I literally said that.
What I'm getting at. So you said that Mehdi was malicious, and I'm asking you, why isn't Elon malicious on this issue?
I don't think it's malicious to talk about child rape gangs.
You don't think it's but he's lying constantly about this issue. He has a pattern of fucking lying in my country. He's a corrupt billionaire oligarch.
Give me a fact about what exact lie did he make about child rape?
He is saying that. Do you agree that Tommy Robinson is not in prison for exposing the truth on these gangs?
Okay, I agree. Tommy Robinson's bad. He's horrible. I condemn Tommy Robinson completely. He tried to collapse the cases on these cases.
Elon Musk touts him.
Elon's wrong. But
when Elon Musk, you agree Elon Musk touts him, right? Do you agree that Elon Musk touts him?
No, I think it's wrong.
No, you don't agree with that?
I think it's wrong. No, I already said this. I don't understand what the problem is. I already said it's bad. It's really bad.
Question. Isn't it true that Elon Musk touts him up, pushes him up, praises him?
Yes, and I'm telling you it's bad. I'm telling you it's bad. I'm telling you it's very bad.
My question for you is, given that, and given the bad associations you're willing to make with Mehdi and say that he's malicious because of comments he's made in the past, why aren't you willing to say now that him associating with Tommy Robinson, saying fake information?
It's bad, but it might be a mistake. It might be a mistake.
It's malicious, and that's Mehdi's point. That's Mehdi's point, that it's all malicious. It's done with bad intent.
Mehdi's the malicious one. Mehdi's the malicious one.
Okay, not the corrupt billionaire oligarch who is trying to fuck up the United Kingdom. By the way, and soon your country too, and soon in my country is already fucked up.
I don't endorse any of Elon's policies. Okay, I just agree that child rape is bad.
You should condemn him. He is a bad figure in this political space. He's supporting the AfD in Germany. What do you think about that?
That's bad. Really bad.
Yeah,
really bad.
But he's not malicious. Yeah. So you're not going to connect the dots to every fucking thing he's doing and say, hey, maybe Mehdi has a point that the people promoting this have some bad, corrupt motives. Maybe I should listen and think about what he's saying.
Pisco. I think people need to talk about child rape. Do you agree with me?
Yes. People need to talk about child rape.
Okay. So it's good that people are talking about child rape now. Yes.
I also think people should talk about murder, but if all you're doing is saying black people are a scourge, they're fucking murdering people, we should...
Did I say that? No.
We're not talking about the crime because of the crime. What he's trying to criticize Mehdi correctly is the bad intent of the people pushing it. People are talking about it. It's a national issue. No, ever since it was whistleblower, this has been a national issue. Why do you think there have been reports, five reports?
Okay, here's an objective fact. Here's an objective fact that Matt Goodwin posted on his Substack. He did an analysis on, I think it was like Levy or it was one of these like databases where you can search for keywords in major media reports. Like discussion of Black Lives Matter and George Floyd was like 15 times grooming gangs in the UK. And Mehdi Hasan said this is the crime of the century. So why would it be 15 times George Floyd and Black Lives Matter in the UK? It doesn't make sense.
Who's nitpicking now, bro? The George Floyd murder was, and do you agree that he was murdered?
Yes, I agree, and it's really bad. I agree, but I'm just saying, if Mehdi Hasan agrees that this is the crime of the century, which is what he said
in history. And
yes.
You're like, why is the biggest protest in history?
Okay, Pisco, why wasn't it the biggest protest in history when there was mass child rape in Rotherham? Why wasn't that the biggest media story of the 20? Why wasn't it the biggest media story in the UK?
There's a lot of factors to that.
It should have been the biggest UK.
There's a lot of factors.
It should have been the biggest media fact. It should have been the biggest media story in the UK.
Wait, do you want me to answer, or do you want a virtue signal more? Or do you want to hear me answer? So this is the answer. Number one, there's video of the George Floyd thing. There's salacious stories, but videos will always be more provocative. Number two, starts in America. America, much bigger media market, obviously influences the whole world in a way the UK doesn't quite as much with the UK. It happened in real time in the age of digital, whereas the actual rapes occurred over the course, in the 90s through the early in late 2000s, and then the initial reports that whistleblowed on it was like in 2009, 10, not quite in the digital age. There are a lot of reasons why it's a more stale story. I'm not saying that it's not an important story. It is a more stale story than the George Floyd story. So when you say something like, why isn't it the case that we care more about George Floyd? It is disingenuous when you say it. It's fucking stupid.
Okay, it's not
why are you bringing that up?
Because
it's about the immigrants, Drew. Come on, use your fucking head. They're trying to get people angry.
Okay, but maybe it is a bad thing if immigrants are raping people. Isn't that a bad thing?
Maybe it's a bad thing if citizens are raping people and non-immigrants are raping people.
I agree, but it's worse. I think it's worse if an immigrant does it though, because an immigrant wouldn't be in the country in the first place to rape somebody if we didn't let them in. So isn't it worse?
So isn't it? I actually don't know. Is it worse for the victim? You're saying, the person who raped also like.
I know, but it's something you can control over, right? Because there's always going to be, unfortunately, rape in your society. But if you've got, and I'm saying this as somebody who comes from a migrant family, if there's a migrant who then commits a terrible rape, that's worse because that's a choice that you've let that person into the country.
I mean,
that's why people are angry.
I understand it has to do with this notion of he's not one of ours, but I actually think it's
that's not even what.
Yeah, no. I actually think it's really distorted. So, for example, I'll give you an example. In this country, we're about to bipartisanly pass a bill called the Laken Riley bill because there was such a stir over a brutal killing. It was a completely brutal killing by an illegal immigrant of a human being, this college student. But they made so much of that because of a reason. And the bill is called that for a reason, political reasons. But they don't make the same kind of ruckus when fucking kids are gunned down in our fucking schools every fucking 2 months, it seems like.
Okay, I agree with you. Look, I actually agree with you fully when it comes to gun stuff in America. Fully agree with you. I'm just saying, obviously it's a specific political problem when you've got an illegal immigrant who rapes somebody. That's a specific political problem. And you can actually fix that. You actually can stop that. So why would that not be like a
You're accepting their framing. And when you accept their framing, they get power. What you don't understand is they're doing it to control the masses because they're corrupt as shit and they were successful. And the United States, they were fucking successful. And now we have a fascist in charge of the United States named Donald Trump. You might not want to say it because you want to play nice because you're Australia and you're in favor of AUKUS. I'm in favor of AUKUS and you want to maintain relations. Yeah, very cool. I understand. We have a lot of on the surface political. No, but what I'm telling you is you need to question the motivations of these actors and not just accept their framing. That's why we need people like Mehdi Hasan. You might disagree on Israel or whatever the fuck. I don't give a shit. It's an important voice to hear.
Okay, but this is also my point, right, Pisco? I'm somebody who doesn't want to see social democratic center-left parties evaporate and be destroyed all across the world, okay? They're losing very badly in Europe. They're losing badly in America. The 2024 election was a disaster, such a disaster. I was like in a shell shock for days. I was fucking so sad. Okay, there's a problem where and I identify with the center left, etc. I want the left to win. This is a big problem where the center left, unfortunately, is really out of step with the vast majority of ordinary citizens when it comes to stuff like illegal immigrants and crime. It's a big problem, we're killing ourselves. We're killing ourselves by not.
If you want to see the center left succeed, you need to stop thinking that acquiescing to the right and accepting their frame is going to bring that result because they don't give a fuck, Drew. They do not give a fuck about bad results. They don't.
Pisco, why is there a Danish Labour Party in power in Denmark right now? Because they just actually deported a lot of Islamist extremists. Okay, like Denmark's an example where they actually said, okay, we're not going to have open borders anymore. We're going to deport illegal immigrants. We're going to deport Islamist extremists, etc. And the Labour Party did that, and they're still in power, and they have avoided this whole wave across Europe where the centre left has been destroyed.
But our Labour Party just won with the biggest margin since 1832.
Okay,
and they haven't acquiesced to the right on this.
I know LonerBox. Okay, but LonerBox, like, it was a great victory. But look at the primary votes. The primary votes are not in a positive direction. They're obviously trending in a bad direction.
Do you think Australia has open borders? I have to ask. Do you think Australia has open borders?
We have a policy right now that is almost open borders.
Okay, so you fucking lost your mind. I mean, like, how can you think that? I mean, how
can I think that, dude? I'm in a country. Dude, I'm in a country. Okay, here's an amazing stat, right? Australia has, literally in absolute terms, like almost the exact same amount of international. There are like 1 million international students in the United States, in a country of 340 million. We've got that in Australia. There's a massive nationwide housing crisis. Massive nationwide housing crisis. It's literally impossible for young people to basically ever get a home.
And you're blaming everything on immigrants, and it's classic.
No, I'm not blaming everything.
This is a story.
Oh my God, I'm not blaming everything on
immigrants.
immigrants.
It's successful,
dude. I'm literally. This is the thing, right? I have like a NIMBY perspective. I'm like, okay, there's a two-pronged issue to this, right? You need to address both demand and you need to address both supply. One, I agree with the YIMBYs. Yes, let's unlock supply. Let's build more housing. Absolutely, I completely agree with that. But the second time, you also have to look at demand as well. And Australia has actually had the largest, just in the past year. The past year has been the largest rate of migration in the entire 60,000 year history of human habitation of the Australian continent. More people have arrived in 1 year. The entire 60,000 year history of the Australian continent, more people have arrived in 1 year over the past year, in the entire history of humanity, okay? Like, we actually don't have enough housing in Australia. There's a massive nationwide housing crisis. I don't want zero immigration. I still want immigration. I'm just saying,
but you understand Australia has very strict policies, right? Australia's known for having strict immigration policies.
Okay, that's what the international perspective is. But if you actually look, this is the funny thing, right? In Australia, we had this problem where basically the Conservatives would do a bait and switch, right? So the Conservatives in Australia were known to be like really tough on illegal immigration, which is the boat thing. But this is the funny thing, and a lot of people have pointed this out over the years. The illegal immigration via boat arrivals in Australia were always a very, very tiny, minuscule percentage of overall illegal arrivals in Australia. The vast majority of illegal immigrants who came to Australia came via, came via air, came via plane, and then overstay visa, et cetera, et cetera. So the Conservatives basically did a bait and switch policy from about the 2000s onwards. It started in like 1999 or whatever. The Conservatives did a bait and switch policy where they basically said to the Australian population, we're going to go really, really insanely hard against the boat smuggling arrivals, the boat illegal arrivals. And so that's why Australia has this like perspective on the world stage of, oh my God, Australia has the toughest policies ever, because we have been actually like really, really strong on that. And to be fair, like the way they treated a lot of the refugees that arrived was really brutal and horrible and wrong. Like, because there were people who were stuck in offshore detention for like 10 years without ever being processed, etc. So there's this perspective on the world stage that Australia is this really, really strict thing. But it was actually it was always this kind of like conservative bait and switch, because while they were sort of satisfying, I guess, like a demand on the part of the Australian electorate, there's a demand on the Australian economy. Okay, but before we go into that, there was always a demand. Like it's like in Britain, right? Like if you look at the polling in Britain for a long time, there have been people who say, like a majority has basically said we want to lower immigration. And then you know what the Tory government did recently? They like, this is what Keir Starmer said recently. I actually fully agree with it. It was like they were talking basically about how we're going to be so tough on the boats. But then meanwhile, Boris Johnson did the same thing in the UK. In 1 year, he basically it presided over the largest immigration wave in the entire human habitation of the British Isles in all of human history. The more people arrived in 1 year under Boris than like literally in the entire history of Britain. And like this was a bait and switch that the Tories were doing, because they were going, oh, we're going to stop all the boats in Calais and everything. Meanwhile, they literally almost did have kind of open border policies. And Keir Starmer came out in the parliament and said, this is really wrong. This is a disaster. And this is a little bit of a similar situation in Australia, because there was this sort of conservative bait and switch where they're like, we're going to crack down really hard on the boats. The boats were like 5% of illegal arrivals. The vast majority of people who came illegally were coming by the air. And then over the past year, there's been more than 600,000 net arrivals in Australia. In a country of 24 million, 4.5% of the population of Australia, 1 in 22 people, I believe, have arrived in Australia.
Now you understand why I said you sound like fucking Pauline Hanson. It's
how?
To me,
what's Pauline Hanson? What's Pauline Hanson to say I'm a social democrat and I think we should slightly lower immigration to where it was prior to COVID? Prior to COVID, it was like 150,000 a year or 200,000 a year, which was still very generous on the world stage, considering we're a small country of 25 million people. Now it's at 600,000. I'm saying let's just go back to the pre-COVID levels. How's that Pauline Hanson? I've never talked about race. I've never talked about anything. I'm just saying let's go back to the pre-COVID levels. That's normal. I just want to be able to afford a house.
Can I ask just out of sheer curiosity? Are you going to support Albanese in the next election?
I don't know. I'm not sure. He's done a very bad job, unfortunately. I agree with the AUKUS stuff, but he's also, even just on China, he's done a really bad job. I'm not sure how I'm going to vote.
Might you vote?
But look, okay, like
Peter
Pisco,
Dutton?
right? No, I'm not going to vote for Peter Dutton. I actually don't know who I'm going to vote. Anyway, Pisco, listen to this, right? You live in a country of 340 million, right? The equivalent of 5% of people arriving in 3 years is 5% of 340 million. That's like 15, 20 million people arriving in 3 years, right? It's a huge number, huge number. Here's the other thing, right? US has a lot more capacity to absorb that amount of people, because you've got
just realized
like
how stoned Pisco looks. I don't know why it took me so long.
Your population is quite spread out, right? in Australia, we've got 5 major cities, and basically 90% of migrants like literally live in those 5 major cities. Dude, like, you know, the population of Australia is so urbanized. 90%, like 90% of the Australian population is basically like 5 cities, right? And so, like, you guys have an immigration wave. You can space it out. You've got literally dozens and dozens of cities and even small towns, right? Like, I remember, but I remember going. But here's a big difference between Australia and America, right? I remember going on Wikipedia and I was like looking at small towns in America, and there's literally like hundreds of towns that have a population over like 100,000 people, right? In Australia, we've basically got like 5 big cities of like 2 million, 3 million people. The vast majority of arrivals are now just going only to Sydney and Melbourne, which is like they've gone, and it's a huge thing. 5%
I
of the
see what you're
population
doing, LonerBox. Like I have all of the streams on everything. So stop what you're doing right now.
What's he doing?
I am tired. But listen, I think we're far afield, Drew. Listen, this is what I want to tell you. Seriously, is I think that you need to fucking distance yourself from Elon Musk. He's a really, really bad guy. I think you need to be able to say,
how am I close to him? How am I?
No, I'm not saying you're close. I think you need to distance yourself.
I'm not exactly working with,
because you're glazing a little bit. You're fucking a little high that he retweeted your shit, and he's a bad dude. He's a bad hombre, and you shouldn't listen to him. He is bad faith.
Pisco, if you look at my Twitter history, I've probably got like 500 tweets criticizing Elon, and then he like has like 2 tweets retweeting me. Seriously, like if you look at the actual balance, it's just that, you know, I'm Australian, so if I come out and say, oh my god, like literally behead Elon and Trump, like what? I can't ever go to America again. Australia gets fucked over. Like, we need America.
But doesn't mean. But listen. When Mehdi Hassan says something, this is my ultimate point. When Mehdi Hassan is like, "Hey, dude, this motherfucking guy is like," give him the benefit of the doubt to read his tweet. I know you said that you were going to do that, but maybe
I agree. I told you I was wrong on that one.
Maybe think that Elon is malicious, and I will tell you, this might sound radical, more malicious than Zateo News guys, because he is. And Mehdi Hassan, you may disagree with him on Israel Palestine, you know, whatever. I even disagree with some of his policies. I think he was you know, a little bit too harsh on Biden at times, but he is one of the best fighters for liberal principles in America now. Don't tell me about what happened 20 years ago, whatever. Now he is one of the most effective left-wing spokesperson against MAGA.
Bad for the left.
MAGA is really a death cult. It will be the death of Western civilization as we know it, and we need to have all of our fighters fighting against MAGA and Elon Musk and the corrupt billionaire class that is going to fucking bankrupt our country.
I share with you a determination that Western civilization will succeed. I think if Mehdi Hassan, who is an Islamist supremacist, becomes a key and chief spokesperson of liberalism in America, that's really bad for us liberals.
Well, I have to say, if that's your position, why the fuck don't you think that of Elon Musk? Elon Musk, who, by the way,
again, I don't like Elon's political.
No. He's malicious and he's a liar, and he is going after.
You just want me to come out and say kill Elon. Like, that's what you want me to say.
I want you to say he's a piece of shit.
I'm not going to say that because I already said I politically disagree with him a strong amount. But I want him to
watch. Call Mehdi Hassan a piece of shit. Call him a piece of shit.
Pisco. I will explain to you my position. Right? I want Elon to improve his position on Ukraine. I am a big supporter of Ukraine. The fact that he retweeted me, I don't want to then come out and say kill Elon, because I want Elon to improve his position on Ukraine. Okay, so
you're doing the Cenk Uygur thing. No, he's your enemy. No. He is your enemy, and Trump is your enemy. And if you can't see that, then you're fucked. You're fucked, dude, bro. The AFD is our enemy. They're Nazis.
You're an American citizen. You can say that Trump's your enemy. I can't say that as a Australian because I need AUKUS to exist. Otherwise, the Chinese government, if they fucking take Taiwan, I'm going to be fucking killed, okay? So I can't go out and say...
No. Australians have always been good to Americans. Australians have always followed Americans into war. Australia is one of America's, if not America's best friend. And Donald Trump, the minute it's inconvenient, will drop you like a bag of sacks. He's going to fuck you over, or he'll drag you to his wars. You better bet on it. Trump will drop you like a bag of fucking sand. That's like it is. There is no loyalty between Trump and Australia. He'll fuck you over.
If Trump does that, I'll be absolutely against it. I'm very much against. My biggest criticism of Trump is actually the way he treats his liberal allies. He treats his liberal allies worse than he treats
the dogs. And that's why fucking dogs. Look at how he's treating Denmark. Speaking of Denmark, he's a piece of shit. You need to fight him because he's going to spread.
That's why I don't like Trump. I don't like Trump. Okay.
Australia is. I have someone who said this to me, and I think it's true. Is always 6 months behind America. It's coming for you next. And this shit, and Elon Musk and people who are loyal to him are going to implement it in your country. And then maybe when you have a Trump-like figure in Australia fucking your shit up, changing all your Western values, maybe then you'll realize he's a piece of shit, he's malicious, and he's the biggest threat, not Mehdi Hassan.
Dude, Pisco, I was strongly against Trump at the election. He won. There's nothing I can do about that as an Australian citizen. Me going on Twitter and saying kill Trump is not going to do anything.
I did not say I don't want Trump to be assassinated.
I know. But I'm just saying, like I can hope for as an Australian citizen right now, all I can hope for is that, like, please God, it's a really bad time for us liberals, right, across the entire world. Really bad time. And I just have to hope against hope, because I'm an Australian citizen. I can't change anything. I just have to hope against hope that Trump will somehow be better for liberal allies than he previously has been. I just have to hope against hope that Elon's going to somehow be better on Ukraine than he previously has to. I have to hope, okay? I don't have the luxury you have as an American citizen with free speech to say, we will destroy. I can't say this stuff because I have to be more.
You can say it about Mehdi because he's powerless and he can't hurt you, and so that's why you go after him and you say that he says all these awful things.
No. I mean, I disagree with Mehdi. I disagree with Mehdi because he's an Islamist supremacist. But never have I actually ever said like destroy Mehdi already. I just disagree with him on Twitter.
Listen, this has been interesting conversation, Drew. What can I say? I think that you see targets and you want to go after them. Sometimes I can be a bit like that too, but I just want you to take a second, read the tweet next time, motherfucker.
Pisco, I already said to you, I got that one wrong. Okay. I already said that, and you can just use that forever to be like, oh my God, kill Drew.
Listen, I'll drop it.
I know. Like the thing is, if I actually straight away say, like literally within the first 5 minutes of this whole interview, literally within the first 5 minutes, I said, Pisco, you actually had a point there. I'm sorry, I got it wrong. But then you tried to make the whole thing about how
I was going one level further. I was saying what you were doing was malicious and knowingly bad, and it wasn't just a mistake.
But I did make a mistake. Because as I said at the start of the whole stream, January 3, I retweeted Mehdi's tweet from 2021 where he was saying that this was all history about brown men. And I was looking at his tweet for many days.
So I believe you now that you were thinking about that tweet, but that doesn't mean that. Okay, but put that aside. Don't glaze Elon, and I'm watching you, motherfucker. I am watching you like a fucking.
I'm not even glazing Elon. I'm not even glazing him, dude. He retweeted me 2 times. Like, how am I glazing him?
You love him.
No, dude. This is what Pisco wants me to do. I'll just tell you what Pisco wants. Pisco wants me to go. Like when Elon retweets me next, Pisco wants me to go. Like reply in the thing, go, Elon, never retweet me again. I hate you order. Like how does that help the issues that I care about? Because one of the major things, for example, that I really, really care about is Ukraine. Like somehow, because Elon saw my tweet, he's retweeted me and I've got a Ukraine flag in my bio. That's possibly a good thing. It's better than me. That's is there a potential? Thing? It's a good thing because he previously hated the Ukrainian cause so much. And like, I saw that he had a big attack with the Groypers over the past 2 weeks. He had a massive attack with them over H1B visas and stuff like that. A massive big falling out with them. If he can move in a better direction, if he can see that there are some Ukraine people who are like, he wants to typecast all pro-Ukraine people as like, libtards, etc. That I'm someone who's liberal who also doesn't like child rape gangs, etc. That's good. Okay. I'm not going to do the next time if he ever retweets me again. I don't even know if he ever will, but I'm not going to just go in the reply and be like, "Fuck you, Elon, never retweet me again." Because what does that achieve?
Will you ever call him out for being malicious? Since you say,
I've criticized him. I've criticized him a million times. And I said it, I probably said 30 times in this entire stream that I strongly disagree with his politics. I strongly disagree with what he said about Tommy Robinson. I strongly disagree with a lot of things he said about this.
Based on what you said about
this is the thing. You want me to go out and say he's an absolutely evil person? What does that achieve?
Okay, so then this will be my last question. Then we can wrap up. Okay. If he did act malicious, if he was in your minds doing something evil or malicious for a bad motive, it's the case that you wouldn't call him out specifically for being malicious, right? You would hold that back because if he does something evil, then I'll criticize it, okay? And I do criticize him all the time. And if you look at my tweets, I've had probably 300, 400 tweets criticizing. What happened to this whole building bridges and I can't criticize them because then I won't be let into the country and I won't have an effect? It sounds like if he does something malicious, if you think it's malicious, you're not going to say it.
No. Dude. If I thought that I had to be completely censored on this stuff, I wouldn't have said in this podcast that I strongly disagree with him on politics and I strongly disagree with what he said on Tommy Robinson. It's bad. I've said that many times. I'm still going to criticize him. Okay, I'm just not going to go onto this person and be like, Elon, I hate you, die. Like, I'm not going to do that because what's the point
Even
of that?
if he does something really, really, really bad.
Oh, if he goes out into the street and beheads a child, of course I'll do that, okay? But like at this point in time, got to be strategic.
But you won't call him out for lying. Is it fair that you'll never call him out for lying?
But here's the thing. Like, yes, it is.
You won't call him out for lying, fair? Because that's
no. What I said, Pisco, is what I was about to say is even though he said really bad things, you know, like for example, like championing Tommy Robinson, that's really bad. I completely agree. That's horrible. I don't think he's fully motivated by like evil in his heart when it comes to child rape things. Because I think a lot of normal people.
I'm talking about lying. Will you call him out for lying?
If he knowingly lies, of course.
If he's not knowingly lying, his contribution to the grooming thing is just ridiculous. Then it's just stupid. It's inept.
No, I wouldn't say it's fully evil and bad because look, at least people are talking about it because it does need more people to talk.
But is he lying?
He's poisoning the discourse, though, right? He hasn't contributed anything useful to it. We had legislation that was on the way, all the merrier without him, and now they're talking. Now they're like sea lining about another inquiry, as if so the Tories can cover themselves after not implementing 20 recommendations, any of them, and from the last inquiry.
But LonerBox, there was also up until this weekend when it became a huge issue because of Twitter. There was no systematic plan by the Labor government to implement all 20 recommendations, right? Yes, you pointed to one good thing that they were going to do, which was in the first 3 weeks, they wanted to move legislation that would criminalize people who are not reporting this stuff.
Yeah, so they started implementing the recommendations before Elon Musk said anything.
Okay, but
they were 3 weeks into office. They haven't changed their policy. Okay. They're not like being like, okay, yeah, well, we'll do the other ones. They haven't done that. They're just going with business as usual.
Okay.
The only thing now is that they also had to vote on a retarded fucking inquiry that wasn't going to achieve anything because we already had an inquiry.
LonerBox, business as usual is not right on this. There's still 20 recommendations that need to be implemented, right?
Yeah, and Elon Musk slowed down that process by introducing this whole new vote now that the Tories threw in of trying to get a new inquiry. You know, inquiries are expensive. They take like years to do. Why would you do a new inquiry and waste all those resources when you have 20 recommendations to implement? Like when you already had one 2 years ago.
Drew. The writer of those reports, the writer of the report, those 20 reforms, says we don't need a new inquiry. How does that change your perspective?
Okay, but
it doesn't change your perspective.
Okay, no, I'm answering you. Implement the 20 recommendations and also do an inquiry to investigate whether cultural attitudes led to this crisis.
What are we expecting to find?
You're willing to take the recommendations of the 20, but not of her recommendation not to do another inquiry. That's interesting.
I still think. Well, previous inquiries didn't necessarily look into this as potential hate crimes. I think that's an important thing that should be considered.
The criminal justice system assesses whether they're potential hate crimes, and apparently they didn't find it. Well, why not?
That's an error because that's an error on the part of the British justice system.
Why do you think they didn't?
It's an error on the part of the British
justice system. That's not why they didn't decide they were hate crimes.
I think they were hate crimes, and I think it's an error of the British justice system that they weren't charged as hate crimes. A lot of them, like for example, we literally had one of the ringleaders saying in court that we're the supreme race. Why is that not considered part of
Pisco? Pisco, if a black guy's insulting me, and I get mad because he's insulting me, and I beat him up, and then in court I'm like, this guy's a fucking N-word. Like, is that a hate crime? The thing I'm charged for, is that a hate crime?
I don't know. I really don't know.
But shouldn't we? Well, here we go.
Versus, that's one scenario. Okay, that's one scenario. That's one scenario. Second scenario, I go and
I don't know about the hate crime lies. I'm really sorry.
Okay,
I don't know about that.
I'm just asking you. Hate crime is like a motive, right? Hate is the motive to the crime.
Yeah, it's the motive behind the
so
crime.
I'm just asking you to use your instincts here as a good lawyer. Okay,
being racist by itself is not a crime.
Okay,
but certain racial motivations.
Gotcha. Okay, so so the only thing they can find out is that I attacked this first black person because he insulted me, right? Second time, I just go and attack a random black dude because I hate black people. That's definitely a hate crime. You would have to show that this Pakistani guy, I think, you would probably have to show, because our hate crime laws in the UK are very, very strict. It's very difficult to get convicted of a hate crime in the UK because we have a high threshold for it.
Yeah, I don't know about
for
that.
any. So if someone, I'm just saying that if this guy abused these girls because they were vulnerable, because he's attracted to young girls, whatever, then that's the crime. If he goes in court and says something about her race, I'm not surprised that if that's all they have, then they wouldn't go for a hate crime.
But here's the thing, LonerBox. if he's saying that stuff in court, if he feels such a sense of entitlement and impunity that he's actually literally right in front of the judge making racially aggravated incendiary comments, then we should investigate whether it's a racial hate crime. And maybe the threshold to charge someone is
one
too high.
rapist, when he's in court, decides to comment on the victim's race.
He was literally the ringleader. Dude,
yeah, because one ringleader comments on the girl's race when he's in court. We have to assess whether or not that these that when Pakistanis do it, they're generally motivated by racial hate, or
yes, we do, because if literally the ringleader in court says we are the superior race, then we should investigate whether racial attitudes are leading to these rapes.
Okay. Yeah. This, by the way, just completely. First of all, inquiries are very expensive. This basically vindicates what I thought. This new inquiry that people want is just to find things that are their maybe pet interests, or to maybe specifically focus on foreigners because of the hate crime incident. Yeah, it's just so people can scratch an itch that is just not going to help victims in the slightest. We're going to do an inquiry to find. We're going to do an inquiry to find out, because of one ringleader made a comment in court about someone's race, that we're going to do a whole new inquiry on child abusers to find out if the Pakistani ones should be charged for hate crimes as well as sexual abuse.
Dude, it's not even just the ringleader as well, though. We literally had young Hamza Yusuf saying on British national television that it was a specifically cultural problem in the British Pakistani community to dehumanize women of other races and girls of other races. And we also
except when it's an Egyptian problem, and except when it's a fucking I mean, come on, it sounds like you're saying it's a Muslim problem. But
yeah, but we also know that
it's nothing. Okay. It's nothing specific to Islam. I'm not saying it's not Islam. It's not people's race. It's a specific cultural attitude, and you can change cultural attitudes. And to change cultural attitudes, we have to try and set cultural relativism to the side and say, listen, some of these attitudes that are leading to the dehumanization of girls and women in these communities, they're wrong. They shouldn't exist in Western countries. If you immigrate and you continue to have these views, you shouldn't be allowed to. You shouldn't be allowed to. People need to be sent home if they continue to harbor
attitudes. And I think, I'm not in favor, by the way, in this country. It's Christian evangelical beliefs. I think it's fucking toxic. I don't agree with a lot of the practices, which I do think are sexist in the Ummah, in the Muslim world. And by the way, the same thing of Jewish communities in this country as well. And I can point out and be honest that there are particular problems in certain doctrines and stuff like that. But here's the thing:
when I
say that, I'm not doing this big I just care about the childhood victim, this and that, and I'm not doing this from what would say chauvinistic or xenophobic perspective, which I think is the goal of a lot of these bad faith actors. And also, I think I would want to be more backed by the data before I'm willing to say something like these are overrepresented, or I'm only going to focus on the subset of the subset in this place. And to me, it just smells of bad faith, not necessarily from you, although something, but certainly from Elon and some of the other movers and shakers here. But I have to bounce pretty soon. I'll give you the last word there, Drew.
Unfortunately, there is a bad problem with Islamism in British Pakistani communities. There's a bad problem as well with lack of respect towards women and girls in British Pakistani communities. I'm not saying that makes all British Pakistani people evil. I'm not saying it's something innately wrong with them. I'm not saying it's racial. I'm not saying it's from Islam. I'm just saying it's a problem in this specific community. Let's be honest about that. Let's have a proper discussion about that. The worst ringleaders, these types of people need to be deported. People who are extremists, people who are preaching terrible attitudes, they need to be deported. We need a better system where we're dealing with migrants who continue to bring sectarian and terrible attitudes from their home countries. Here's a good example, right? I fought the leader of the Greek Golden Dawn neo-Nazis in Australia. I fought him in court. That's how hard I go against this stuff, and it's in my own community. This is a Greek neo-Nazi,
Islam?
The leader of the Golden Dawn. No, dude.
I literally didn't hear that word. Sorry.
Okay. I'll just quickly explain this to you, right? Like, I'm a Greek Australian migrant. My family came to Australia from Greek Cyprus. I fought really hard against the Golden Dawn neo-Nazi leadership in Australia, which is the Greek neo-Nazi gang that was actually designated a terror group in Greece. I fought him in court. So we need to be really, really hard. We need to be stronger when it comes to people who migrate to our countries, but they bring fascist attitudes, or they bring extremist, religious, sectarian attitudes, terrible attitudes towards women and girls. That's all I'm saying. And I think if liberals don't have a solution on this, then it's going to be terrible for the center left for the next couple of decades, because this is a real problem. People don't like it. And when we're seen to be just only equivocating on this stuff, it's going to make it poison